Time is a servant of the mind, not its master. The illusion of waiting is a deception born out of the senses. What seems to stretch endlessly before you is not a barrier, but a reflection of your inner conviction. You think time must pass before a thing can come, but that is only because you believe it so. What you truly believe to be real, what you truly accept as fact in your imagination has no delay in manifestation. It must come to pass, for imagination creates the form and presses it out into the world of experience. You have been conditioned to see time as a straight road, with distance between desire and fulfillment. But time is not a straight road. It is a circle, and within that circle all things already exist. The only thing separating you from your desire is not time. It is your state of being. When you assume the state of your wish fulfilled, when you take it upon yourself as though it were already yours, you do something remarkable. You bend time. You collapse it. You move from the waiting to the becoming, from effort to effortless unfolding. Everything you seek already exists in the eternal now. You do not need to become worthy. You do not need to convince anyone. You do not need to strive or labor in the outer world. You need only to change your inner state. Your world is yourself pushed out. Every person, every condition, every opportunity is simply an echo of your consciousness. If you remain in the consciousness of lack, delay, or effort, the world must obey. If you enter the state of knowing, having, and being, the world must bend to reflect that too. Imagination is the only doorway to creation. It is not a daydream. It is not a hopeful escape. It is the very workshop of reality. When you imagine something vividly, when you saturate your inner senses with the tones of fulfilled desire, you are engaging the one true power in this world, the power of assumption. Assumption is not a wish, it is a choice. It is the claiming of a thing unseen, and the acceptance that it must become seen. You do not need to figure out the details. You do not need to plan the path. All you must do is dwell in the end. What does it mean to dwell in the end? It means to live now as the person you would be if the desire were already true. It means to speak, to walk, to feel, to think, and to respond to life from the version of yourself who has already received. This is not pretense, this is alignment. When you do this consistently, the structure of reality shifts, circumstances are rearranged. People take actions they did not previously consider. Events unfold in precise and mysterious ways. The mind cannot plan this, but the deeper self orchestrates it with divine ease. There is no outer cause. There is only inner acceptance. And the measure of your faith is the intensity of your assumption. Do not look to the outer world for proof. It will always be late. Look instead to your own mind. The outer is simply the shadow of the inner. If you wish to change the shadow, do not strike at it. Instead, shift the light from within. Dwell not on what is, but on what ought to be, and in that dwelling it becomes what is. You must not fall into the trap of asking how. The how is not your domain. The how is the domain of life itself, which is infinitely more intelligent than your reasoning mind. Your role is to know what you want, and to move into the inner experience of already having it. Create in your imagination a scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. Make it short, make it vivid, and make it natural. Then play it again and again until it feels real. When it begins to feel like a memory, you have succeeded. You have planted the seed. The harvest will come. Remain faithful, not to appearances, for they lie. Remain faithful to the unseen inner conviction that your desire is already yours. This is the great secret. Not striving, not seeking, but assuming. Not effort, but embodiment. Not delay, but acceptance. When you assume your desire and refuse to waver, the whole universe conspires to bring it to you in the quickest, most effortless manner. This is how you collapse time. By refusing to see time at all. By standing in the now and saying with full conviction, it is done. When you live in the end, you are no longer reacting to the world. You are creating it. You are not waiting for evidence. You are the evidence. You are no longer looking outward for signs. You are generating the vibration that causes signs to appear. You become the cause, not the effect. You are the author, not the reader. The world cannot help but reflect the state you consistently occupy. It must respond. It must obey. It must transform to match the image you hold within. Assumption is the silent force that governs creation. It is not something you do once and forget. It is a state you live in, breathe in, and move from. The moment you assume a thing to be true, not hope, not wish, not desire, but assume, you activate the unseen forces of reality to bring it to you with unwavering fidelity. You become magnetized to the version of life where your desire already exists, and it in turn becomes magnetized to you. This world, which seems so solid and external, is nothing more than a mirror reflecting your inner state. Change the assumption, and the world must follow. It is law. What you persist in assuming becomes clothed in fact. You may not see the first movement, you may not feel the wind shift, but know this: the moment you accepted the thing as real in your inner world, you began to generate a new version of reality, one that must unfold in due course, just as surely as night follows day. Assumption is not hard. It is not struggle. It is the letting go of what is and the welcoming of what you desire. It is not about believing with force, but about resting in the knowing. Like one who orders a meal and does not worry if it will arrive, you too must learn to dwell in the inner assurance that what you have imagined is already yours. You must become it inwardly before it ever appears outwardly. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. Assumption makes you become. You have been given the power to enter any state at will. You are not bound to your current conditions unless you decide to be. Every emotional state, every version of yourself, every possible life already exists. You are not creating something from nothing. You are selecting from what is already finished. Creation is finished. It is done. And you are the selector, the chooser, the imaginer. You are the one who determines the reality you step into by the state you occupy. To assume is to move into the state. It is to take ownership without physical proof. It is to walk as though, speak as though, think as though, feel as though it were already real. And if your assumption is strong enough, if your loyalty to the unseen is greater than your attention to the seen, the outer world must bow, not by force but by natural law. Just as the seed bursts through the soil, not by violence but by divine inevitability, so too will your assumption blossom into form. The key is to persist, not to struggle but to remain. Remain loyal to the state of the wish fulfilled. Return to it throughout the day. Let it color your thoughts, your reactions, your self-talk. When doubt arises, and it will, return to the feeling. When old patterns whisper that nothing will change, return to the feeling. When time tempts you to worry, return to the feeling. That feeling is the fuel. It is the signature of your chosen reality. The deeper you feel it, the faster the form arrives. Assumption is a creative act. It is the act of claiming, not requesting. When you assume, you move beyond begging life for blessings. You step into the role of the blesser. You stop asking, will it come? And start declaring, it is done. This shift in posture changes everything. The vibration of wanting is different from the vibration of having. The moment you shift from desire to possession, from lack to fulfillment, from longing to gratitude, the world begins its quiet rearrangement. You need not share your assumption with others. The world need not understand the power you wield. Keep it sacred. Let your assumption be your secret knowing. Let it be the silent force behind your calm. While others react to appearances, you respond from vision. While others wait for change, you walk in it. While others speak of delay, you speak from fulfillment. This is how the unseen becomes seen. This is how the intangible becomes flesh. Each time you assume, you change your path. You step off the timeline of waiting and into the timeline of fulfillment. The people you meet, the opportunities you encounter, the events that unfold, all shift according to your dominant inner reality. Do not underestimate the subtle power of your consistent assumption. It need not be loud. It need not be visible. It simply needs to be real to you. If it feels real to you, the world will eventually catch up. Assumption is the gate. It is the door through which desire becomes experience. When you understand this, you cease to live by effort and begin to live by vision. The mind that assumes is the mind that creates. The body that assumes is the body that receives. The heart that assumes is the heart that radiates wholeness. You walk through life not as a victim of circumstances, but as the creator of them. You leave behind the old self, the doubter, the questioner, the one who needed proof, and step into the self who knows, the self who already is, the self who accepts the unseen as more real than what eyes can behold. There is no one to change but self. This truth, quietly powerful, shatters the illusion that others or the world must shift before your life can transform. Everything you call external, everything you label, all that is but a mirror. A silent, obedient mirror reflecting your innermost beliefs, assumptions, and states of being. If you desire a different reflection, you must first alter the one who gazes. It is not through force, persuasion, or action that the world changes. It is through the quiet movement within. The movement of consciousness from one state to other. You are not here to react to life, to respond endlessly to circumstances like a leaf in the wind. You are here to assume the center of your reality, to know with unshakable certainty that your world begins and ends within your own imagination. It is the only creative power you will ever need. You were taught to believe in facts and conditions, in what the senses report. But senses are servants, not masters. They only echo what you have already accepted within. To transform what is, you must turn away from it. Not in denial, but in deliberate creation. You must stop worshipping the evidence of the old and start revering the unseen pattern of the new. Imagination is not idle play. It is divine law in action. Every assumption you consistently hold crystallizes into form, and every feeling you nurture writes the script of your world. You may ask, but how do I change self? Not through discipline alone. Not through punishing routines or hard labor. You change self by changing your inner conversations. The words you whisper when no one is listening. The scenes you replay before sleep. The identities you wear in silence. Begin there. Speak to yourself as the one who already possesses, already knows, already lives the fulfilled reality. Let the inner voice declare what the outer world has not yet echoed. You are not bound to the past unless you carry it with you. You are not doomed to repeat cycles unless you rehearse them in imagination. The mind left undirected will relive old patterns and recycle familiar pain. But the mind that is disciplined by vision, by assumption, by conscious feeling, that mind becomes a fertile garden for miracles. Plant the seed of a new self in imagination and let it grow in silence, watered by conviction and lighted by faith. When you see others, see reflections. If someone opposes you, ask what part of you has assumed opposition. If someone praises you, ask what part of you has accepted that praise as natural. The world is not separate. It is structured out of the state you occupy. Everyone is yourself pushed out, playing roles according to your belief about them and about you. You are not a spectator in this drama. You are author, director, actor, and audience all at once. Do not seek to fix people. Do not beg for their change. Instead, climb the ladder of states within. Move into the version of you that no longer needs their change to feel fulfilled. Dwell in the self where harmony is natural, where success is effortless, where love is returned. When you make that inner shift, the outer players cannot help but follow. The script must change when the author changes the plot. States are not fixed, they are fluid. At any moment, you can rise out of one and into another. From fear into peace. From lack into wealth, from loneliness into companionship. The key is identification. If you remain identified with the old story, you stay in its shadow. But when you let go of the story and take on the feeling of the new, everything realigns. The shift begins as imagination and ends in manifestation. You do not need permission. You need only conviction. This is the art of effortless creation. Not through outer will, but inner knowing. The self you imagine is more powerful than the one you see. The version of you that lives in your mind is the blueprint of your reality. And that version is not bound by current facts. It lives beyond time. It sees beyond what is. It holds in its hand every possibility and waits only for your full assumption of its truth. Imagination will never betray you. It gives to you what you persist in feeding it. It does not choose for you. It reflects you. So reflect wisely, think deliberately, feel courageously. And when doubt rises, return to the inner self, the higher self. The one who already dwells in the fullness of the desired state. That self is never separate from you. It is who you truly are, buried beneath layers of thought, habit, and belief. Strip them away. Step boldly into the identity that knows it is already done. Not someday. Not when the outer agrees. But now, in this silent moment where thought and reality collide. In this sacred stillness where creation is always occurring. In this present awareness where the imagined becomes inevitable. Where the unseen becomes seen. Where the assumed becomes fact. The secret of effortless manifestation lies in living from the end. Not striving toward it. You were not placed in this world to chase shadows or climb endlessly towards some distant goal. You were placed here to awaken to the truth that you are the source, not the seeker. The moment you stop desiring as though your good is far away and start assuming your desire is already yours, you enter into alignment with the only law that governs creation. To live from the end is to dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is to look out through the eyes of the one who already possesses the thing sought. You no longer ask, when will it come? Instead, you ask, what would I think, feel, say, or do? If it were already true, you take on the mental atmosphere of fulfillment. You saturate your inner world with it. And as you do, the outer must reflect that internal state, because the world cannot help but mirror the consciousness that perceives it. Most people live in reaction. They see circumstances, accept them as truth, and form beliefs based on what is. But to manifest effortlessly, you must live by a higher law. You must reverse the order. You must feel first, then let the facts conform to that feeling. This is not denial of the senses, but command over them. You are no longer the puppet of appearances. You become the master of assumption. You do not wait for the outer to change so you can feel differently. You change your inner state so that the outer must obey. This practice is not about fantasy or delusion. It is about identification. The moment you identify with a version of yourself that already has what you desire, your energy shifts, your behavior changes. Your posture, your tone, your thoughts all begin to express the new identity. This alignment sends a clear message to the universe, not one of need, but of being. And the universe does not give based on asking. It gives based on who you are. It responds to your assumed identity. To live from the end requires stillness. Not the stillness of doing nothing, but the inner stillness of knowing. The quiet, unshakable peace that comes when you drop the struggle. When you cease to try and instead begin to be. Trying affirms that something is missing. Being affirms that it is here. This is the difference between effort and ease, between delay and instant manifestation. The self that tries is always in lack. The self that lives from the end is always in possession. You collapse time by refusing to bow to it. Time is a construct of the mind. It exists only in relation to your assumption. If you see your desire as far off, time will stretch accordingly. But if you feel it now, if you embody the experience as already real, time bends. Events accelerate, synchronicities align, people appear, doors open. This is not magic, this is law. What you do in the world matters far less than what you are in consciousness. Action can support assumption, but it cannot replace it. You may work tirelessly and go nowhere, because effort without aligned imagination is empty movement. But when imagination is aligned, even the smallest step becomes powerful. You are not here to force things into place. You are here to let things unfold in accordance with your inner conviction. That is the essence of effortless creation. To live from the end, you must revise your responses. Instead of reacting to what is, respond to what you have chosen to believe. When an unwanted condition appears, do not fight it. Instead, return inward. Reassume the state of the wish fulfilled. Remind yourself who you truly are and what you have already claimed in imagination. Every time you return to the end, you anchor yourself more deeply in that version of reality. And as you persist, the old fades, the new takes form. This is the path of the silent creator. It requires no announcement, no external validation. You need not convince anyone of your new state. You need only to feel it real. The feeling is the foundation. It is not a fleeting emotion, but a deep, sustained knowing. When you sit quietly in the assumption that your desire is already true, you radiate a frequency that organizes reality around you. That vibration draws everything needed for its fulfillment. People, events, resources. Without effort, without delay. Do not concern yourself with appearances. Do not look outside to measure progress. The seed you planted in imagination grows in silence. It works beneath the surface. Your job is not to dig it up and inspect it, but to water it with feeling and protect it with faith. Every moment you dwell in the end, you feed that seed. And every moment you doubt, you withhold nourishment from the life you're creating. Stay loyal to the unseen. Stay loyal to the version of yourself who already knows the joy of fulfillment. Let that version become your dominant state, not occasionally, but consistently. Let it color your mornings, your nights, your pauses between thoughts. Let it guide how you walk, how you breathe, how you move through the world. Let it speak before words, act to action, decide before logic. Let that state become so familiar that it replaces the old identity completely. Let it reshape the memory of who you thought you were and override it with who you truly are. The world outside is nothing more than the outpicturing of your inner conversations. Every condition you face, every experience you attract, every result you receive is shaped and formed in the secret chamber of the mind. What you repeatedly say to yourself, what you accept without resistance, and what you feel with consistency. These become the building blocks of your reality. The outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. And if the effect displeases you, you must return to the source, which is within. There is no power outside your own consciousness. There is no force out there that can withhold or delay your desire. What appears to be resistance is only a mirror reflecting the resistance within. The law of assumption is always working, and it is always faithful. It does not ask whether you are aware of it. It simply brings to pass what you assume to be true. If you say, I am successful, and feel that success within, the world begins to mold itself around that assumption. If you say, I never win, and accept that belief, the world echoes that too. The law makes no judgment. It simply manifests your inner agreement. You are not here to fight against the world. You are here to awaken to your dominion over it. Dominion does not come through aggression, but through assumption. The moment you change your inner dialogue, the moment you revise your identity, the moment you feel from the new state, you begin to shift the entire fabric of your experience. You do not need to wait. You do not need to ask. You need only to claim. The act of claiming is not loud. It is not dramatic. It happens in stillness. It happens in imagination. The world knows nothing of it until it appears, seemingly out of nowhere, as evidence. But you will know. You will know that you went there in mind before it appeared in matter. You will recognize your desire when it comes because you've already lived it 1,000 times within. That is the secreting, to live inwardly so fully that the outer must conform, because the unseen has already become more real than the seen. You collapse time when you stop living in anticipation and start living in fulfillment. Anticipation keeps the desire at arm's length. Fulfillment draws it into the now. When you assume your desire is already realized, you draw from the invisible reservoir of all that is possible and condense it into your present. Time folds under the weight of conviction. It must. For time is not fixed, it is responsive. And nothing is more powerful than the individual who decides to no longer wait. The voice within must be trained. It must be purified of doubt and fear and programmed with the vibration of certainty. This is not done by force, but by repetition. Speak inwardly to yourself in the language of the fulfilled. Say thank you, as if the gift has already arrived. Say I am, in the tone of one who no longer hopes but knows. Say it is done, not with desperation but with peace. The more you inhabit this internal world of truth, the more the external world reshapes to mirror it. When the senses contradict your assumption, you must remain unmoved. The facts may scream, but the truth is silent. That silence is your sanctuary. Within it, you are untouchable. You are beyond doubt, beyond denial. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. The one who lives from the end does not need proof. They are the proof. They move through the world calmly, knowing that life must respond to the impression they have made upon it through imagination and belief. You may find yourself tempted to waver. Old thoughts may return. Old identities may whisper. But every time they appear, you have a choice to listen or to assume again. Assumption is your anchor. It grounds you in the world you choose, not the world you inherited. You are never bound to repeat anything, unless you choose to. You can revise the past, transform the present, and determine the future by revising your inner state now. Do not underestimate the quiet power of this practice. It does not demand that you change the world. It only asks that you change the way you see yourself. That one change, deep, genuine, unwavering, creates ripples that move mountains. You will begin to notice shifts. Subtle at first, a phrase someone says, a door that opens unexpectedly, a feeling that something invisible is moving on your behalf. These are not accidents. These are reflections of your inner movement. You have changed direction internally, and the external must now follow. Every desire is already fulfilled in imagination. The question is never whether it will happen. The question is whether you will accept it inwardly. Whether you will live as though it is done. Whether you will let go of the illusion of separation and walk in the unity of belief and manifestation. You are not becoming something new. You are returning to what you have always been, the creator of your own experience, the author of your reality, the one who commands time by standing beyond it. The most sacred power you hold is the ability to assume a new identity at will. You are not bound to yesterday's beliefs, nor must you be imprisoned by the facts of today. The moment you dare to identify as the one who already is what they desire to be, you initiate a shift so profound that reality bends itself to your inner declaration. You do not change the world by battling it. You change it by moving into a new state of being where what you desire is already yours. There is only one cause, and it is consciousness. What you are conscious of being determines what you experience. Not what you wish, not what you hope, but what you are aware of as already true. Every day you walk within the boundaries of a state. That state shapes your reactions, influences your decisions, and summons conditions that confirm your identity. If you remain loyal to a state of limitation, it will be reflected in endless forms. But the moment you shift, without external proof, without evidence, into a higher assumption, the world begins to rearrange itself to mirror that new pattern. You are not here to become. You are here to awaken. The version of you who already lives your ideal life is not a fantasy. It is a state of consciousness that you may enter at any moment. That self is real as the one you currently identify with. And the only distance between the two is the feeling of being. When you feel as that future self would feel, when you speak as they would speak, when you silently carry yourself with their awareness, you collapse the illusion of time and move directly into that reality. States are fluid, not fixed, and you move between them more often than you realize. A thought, a memory, a suggestion, a mood. All of these can drop you into a state unconsciously. But with intention and awareness, you can rise deliberately. You can wake up in the middle of fear and choose love. You can notice the whispers of doubt and choose conviction. You can stand in the midst of lack and declare abundance. These decisions, repeated and refined, rewire the structure of your life from within. This is not about pretending, it is about inhabiting. Pretending implies you know something is false. Inhabiting means you know something is true, whether or not it has yet appeared. When you inhabit a state, you do not force the world to change. You allow it. You become receptive to new opportunities. You interpret things differently. You see possibility where others see dead ends. This openness is not weak. It is powerful. It is magnetic. It draws to you everything necessary to fulfill your assumed identity. You must understand that the world is always confirming your state. That is its only function. It is not here to affirm your hopes, but to echo your beliefs. If something undesirable continues to appear, look not at the thing itself, but at within you continues to assume its presence. And then, change the assumption. Not with frustration or desperation, but with quiet authority. Step into the scene that implies the desire is fulfilled. Live there mentally. Let the tones of that scene soak into your being. The more you return to it, the more the outer world must reflect it. Imagination is the master key. It is the divine creative plowing through every individual. When you use it consciously, you rise above circumstances and become the cause of your life. The act of imagining the end and assuming it as done is not merely a technique. It is a return to your true nature. You are not meant to wish your life into shape. You are meant to mold it from the inside out. And that molding is done in the workshop of the mind, where images, feelings, and assumptions converge to create the structure of tomorrow. Let your assumption be subtle but unshakable. Do not discuss it with the world, for the world does not yet understand the language of inner causation. Let it within you as a quiet knowing, a sacred flame that does not flicker when wind passes by. Every time the old state tries to return, do not resist it. Instead, reaffirm your dwelling in the new. Every time doubt knocks, let your feeling answer. Every time delay whispers, reply with gratitude for what already is. Nothing is more powerful than the individual who assumes identity consciously. You are not moving through time towards some uncertain future. You are selecting a timeline, stepping into it by way of consciousness, and allowing the facts to follow. The facts are malleable. They will bow to the authority of your inner vision. But that vision must be claimed, possessed, and lived inwardly before it can be seen outwardly. You do not need to wait for circumstances to align. The alignment begins in imagination. The future you seek does not lie ahead. It lies within, in a state waiting for your embrace. Once you enter it and refuse to leave, everything necessary for its expression moves toward you. People are moved, events are shifted, conditions are rewritten. Not by your effort, but by your assumption. Your work is not to struggle with the world. Your work is to stay faithful to the unseen reality you have claimed as your own, to remain mentally in the atmosphere of fulfillment. To let that be the source of your words, your choices, and your movement through the world.